Hello everyone, welcome to the Belt and Road Face-to-Face.
From China and Pakistan established a very close connection and cooperation, while the legislative institution of these two countries' cooperation is still in a very initial stage.
CPEC projects and its security from Pakistan's side is the most important priority.
Restrict the enthusiasm of the Pakistan or all the overseas investors to invest in Qatar.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Belt and Road Face-to-Face. Our program is co-produced by China Economic Net and vshnews Television. I'm Wang Xiaotong from China Economic Net. Today, I'm pleased to be joined in our studio by Wang Shida, Associate Research Professor of China Institutes of Contemporary International Relations, and we also have Dr. Sajid Kushahid, Department Head at the Canadian International School of Beijing and visiting faculty at Tsinghua University, who will share his opinions outside the studio. Let's enter the first part, hotspot. Beijing and Islamabad have agreed on the formation of a joint parliamentary committee for effective oversight and monitoring of China-Pakistan economic corridor. National Assembly Speaker Asad Qaiser and Chairman of the Chinese National People's Congress Zhanshu took the decision during their virtual meeting and directed secretaries of their respective parliaments to take necessary steps. They agreed that enhanced parliamentary and economic cooperation between the two parliaments would give impetus to the existing bilateral relations. They decided to enhance parliamentary cooperation through interaction at standing committees level as well as Parliamentary Friendship Group. Mr. Wang, what's the significance of the close connection between the legislative institutions between China and Pakistan?
Over the past 70 years, China and Pakistan established a so-called all-weather friendship. I think different departments of the government, as well as armed forces, from China and Pakistan established a very close connection and cooperation, while the legislative institution of these two countries' cooperation is still in a very initial stage, I should say that. You see, Pakistan is a parliamentary democratic country. Administration, legislation, and justice are the three pillars for the power. So that as we establish this kind of joint parliamentary committee, we can see that we have a very complete picture, a framework for our all-weather partnership. So in the future, I think the joint committee between the Parliament of China and Pakistan will lay the solid foundation for the future development of our bilateral cooperation.
So how will the bilateral cooperation be promoted through that?
Take CPEC, for example. There used to be some kind of so-called tax exemption regulations or laws passed by the Pakistan side. But because there are differences among the different departments of the government, this kind of policies is not carried out in the Qatar free zone. So that restrict the enthusiasm of the Pakistan or all the overseas investors to invest in Qatar free zone. So that it kind of limit the development potential of the Qatar free zone. But now we have this kind of the joint parliamentary committee. I think the Pakistan parliament can know the ground realities and know what happens, and know the problems in our bilateral cooperations, especially CPEC. So that I can think in the future, this kind of so-called policy for the tax exemption can be fully carried out in the Qatar free zone, as well as other special economic zones like the Qaiser. So that I think that is how the joint parliament committee can facilitate our bilateral cooperations.
Now let's connect it with Dr. Sajid.
The virtual meeting was the first high-level contact between the two presiding parliamentary officers after the pandemic. Mr. Qaiser and Mr. Lee agreed that we have to enhance the parliamentary relationships towards the standing committees and the Parliamentary Friendship Group. Both of these two members agreed that the CPEC projects and its security from Pakistan's side is the most important priority, And the Pakistani official, Mr. Qaiser, they already assured Mr. Lee that all the projects which is being going on through the CPEC will be having a special projects and taking care of very special consideration for the security of that. Because CPEC is a pipeline, is a lifeline, in fact, for the Pakistani development of their economy. And Pakistan plays a very important role all the projects under the CPEC project. Thank you.
The 70th anniversary of the China-Pakistan diplomatic relations is around the corner. What is the necessity for the joint parliamentary committee at this time notes?
I think both governments have already arranged a lot of celebrating events. You see the embassy in Pakistan and Pakistan embassy in Beijing. They all contact me, say that this year you will be invited a lot because we have so many celebrations. Because I think that is 70 celebrations, and 35 by China side and 35 by Pakistan side. As far as I know, there is a celebration named the Mutual Introducing Movies. There is joint seminars. There is a kind of cultural festivals events. But for me, I think the joint parliamentary committee, I think might be one of the most important event or celebrations event that happens this year, because you will hear the movie and think after the movie is shown, maybe people will forget it, and talk about the cultural festivals, and after it's being held, people might also forget it. But the joint parliamentary committee will exist there, at least I think in the long term, even forever exist. So that is very great importance.
So how will the parliamentary committee promote the construction of CPEC?
Definitely from the government to government level. I think there is no doubt that Pakistan government and China government very attach great importance to the CPEC. But you see, we talk about the concrete carry-out issue, there might be some problems. Just now I mentioned the Guadalajara issue, and I can assure you that that is not that case. A lot of other cases still exist. So that with this kind of joint parliamentary committee, I think at least the legislative institution of Pakistan can know what happens, what problem the CPEC is facing at the current stage, and then the legislative institution, Parliament of Pakistan, can pass some kind of related laws or regulation to directly address the issue or the problem, so facilitate the smooth carry out of the second phase of CPEC.
Dr. Sajid, what's your opinion on that?
CPEC is the most important for the economies of both the countries. Mr. Qaiser's support for establishment of the special economic zones under the CPEC was really appreciated, because it creates lots of business opportunities for the investment point of view from the people of Pakistan as well as the Chinese investors. Not only the economic will be developed by the Pakistani people itself, they also provide lots of business as well as employment opportunities. He said the Gwadar port and the other projects under the CPEC would play an important role in the economic development of Pakistan. The Pakistani speaker assured that all the security measures has been taken in order to complete the projects under the CPEC and make sure that everything is safe and sound. And he also encouraged that the regular exchange of the visits at the highest level between the two countries, the strategic cooperation between Pakistan and China, have grown over the past few decades.
Dr. Sajid, what change will the bilateral relations have in the future?
Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said that the Pakistanis are very excited about the anniversary and they will celebrate this event in a style. He said that China has always been our side during this long and sweet journey. The upcoming anniversary is a special momentum, will be celebrated while keeping in mind the expectations of people on both the sides. There will be lots of activities and programs that are planned on the 70th anniversary of the diplomatic relationships, including seminars, cultural events, conferences, exhibitions, and many more. The Pakistan Embassy in Beijing is working to create a Chinese web portal to promote Pakistani tourism for Chinese people. And I think that's really a very good initiative. The Pakistani dramas are one of the best dramas in the world, will be soon telecasted on Chinese televisions with Chinese dubbing or Chinese subtitle.
At the 70th anniversary of the Pakchina diplomatic relations, what change will the bilateral relations have in the future?
70 years are big years for China. I mean that 10 years is already a big year for us. 7 years, I mean a lot for us. I think you rightly mentioned that 2021 marks that China and Pakistan friendship or cooperation enter to a new stage. I think we have already given a kind of new position of our bilateral cooperation that is called we will build towards a closer community of shared destiny between China and Pakistan in a new era. I think that is very important. New ideas or new project will help to build the CPEC into a stage of high quality development, of expansion, of improvement. So the epidemic greatly influenced the market requirement of the furniture and also influence the transportation of the furniture.
We need to move into the innovation side of the furniture instead of making a very traditional and very old-fashioned furniture.
China and Pakistan can try to establish a kind of center for excellence.
We should focus on replanting of those ever reproducing rosewood trees.
Maybe we need still a little bit more marketing.
You are watching the Belt and Road face-to-face. Let's enter the second part figure. The furniture exports witnessed a decrease of 14.53% during the first half of the current financial year 2020 to 2021 as compared to the exports of the corresponding period of last year. Pakistan exported furniture worth $1.547 million during July to December against the exports of $1.810 million during July to December of the last financial year, showing a decline of 14.53% according to the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. Meanwhile, on a year-on-year basis, the furniture exports declined by 25.52% in December 2020 as compared to the exports of the same month of last year. The furniture exports in December 2020 were recorded at $0.356 million against exports of $0.478 million in December 2019. On a month-on-month basis, the exports of furniture decreased by 82% during December 2020. Furniture, especially the wooden furniture, has always been one of the main products of Pakistan for exporting. So what is the reason behind the decrease in the exports?
The first one might be the cost. I mean the production cost of the Pakistan's furniture. We all know that Pakistan, some places are famous for its handmade furniture, but frankly speaking, the industrial chain of furniture in Pakistan is not complete. Or it is imperfect. Some kind of element need to be imported so that it will increase the cost of production. So decrease the competitiveness of the Pakistan furniture. Second one that might be the sales channel, because we all visit Pakistan for several times, and Pakistan furniture as well as other goods mainly relies on the traditional sales channels, like furniture. It mainly relies on furniture stores, so that a very little share of the furniture relied on the e-commerce channel. That is to say that very little people will buy the furniture through the internet or through e-commerce. So restrict the channels. Last but not least, I think that should be the COVID-19 epidemic. We all know that the COVID-19 epidemic still there. So the epidemic greatly influenced the market requirement of the furniture and also influence the transportation of the furniture. We all know that nowadays, because of the COVID-19 epidemic, a lot of countries just impose a very strict quarantine test for any import goods, including furniture.
Now let's connect it with Dr. Sajid.
First of all is about the low productivity. We need to enhance our production, so we cannot even fulfill the local demand of the people. Even we have to produce in a way that we can export internationally. Also, we need a good governance about that. We need to plant those kind of trees that could be used for the furniture making in a way that could be available in the next 20-30 years. So we have enough planning for those kind of availability of the wood that could be used for making furniture. Also, the high cost of production. Rather, we are using some old methods of production, but the people who are dealing with these kind of furniture industry, they are very technical, they are very skilled labor. That's why it's a bit expensive for them. But the other point which I would like to highlight, they are using the old method of production, which is obsoleting technologies. If all furniture making industry can be used by the latest the technology methods, I think they can not only produce a very high efficiency furniture, and even we can produce more in high qualities. Also, there is the less demand of the old furniture. We need to move into the innovation side of the furniture, instead of making a very traditional and very old-fashioned furniture, I think.
Dr. Sajid, what are the advantages and disadvantages of Pakistan's furniture industry?
The handmade furniture is always a high demand by the customers. It's a high quality, durability, and lots of other factors. Secondly, the Pakistani furniture manufacturers have expertise in the area due to the type of the wood that they are using. It's called shisham wood or rosewood, so-called, which added the furniture's its demand. It's a high-quality wood. The leading wood furniture making areas of Pakistan are Chineot, that's at the top. We have Gujarat, Peshawar, Lahore, and Karachi. Despite of like many other cities, almost every city they are making their local furnitures, but this furniture from these specific cities are very famous. If we're talking about the disadvantages, mainly that we have the domestic furniture industry is suffering because of the furniture export of Pakistan has been recently declined because of the pandemic situation. COVID is one of the main reasons, in fact. Secondly, there's a high cost of making furniture because the wood is expensive, the tools and the other materials, they are expensive. That's why the furniture making manufacturing industry are not earning a lot of profit. So that is also one of the reasons. And the prices of the other equipments related to the chipboard, color paints, materials, timber, polish, varnish, all these things becomes expensive. The labor also becomes expensive of that. So overall, we combine them together, it becomes an expensive product. And when they export it, of course, the other freight charges and all these things would be added. Due to the unchecked deforestation of timber production of the country is also affecting these disadvantage. And also the old obsolete technology and machinery that we are using into this industry, also one of the obstacles. We should focus on replanting of those ever reproducing rosewood trees. So in future and after 10, 15, 20 years, we'll have enough amount of rosewood, which is precious and expensive, would be available for furniture making industry. Also, to make furniture good for competitive for the international market, the government should revise the taxes and duties on this industry to export. And I think that would be really a very good advantage for those who are exporting the furniture from Pakistan to China and other countries. Allocating of the worthwhile industry zones for the furniture is also a very good impact. If we have a special zones like Chineot could be a very good example, can be established a very special the economic zones for the furnitures only, Like I have seen in China, there are different areas, different cities, which is specifically assigned for the furniture purposes. And that will be really helping and boosting the furniture of Pakistan. And mostly like the furniture using in offices, bars, stools, chairs, home, that could be is a huge demand for those products in Pakistan.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of Pakistan's furniture industry, or innovation should be made to boost its exports?
Maybe we need still a little bit more marketing. I mean that Pakistan is famous for its mangoes, for its oil, for its date, but Pakistan furniture, some people know, while others might not. So that maybe the international market acceptance is still an issue, need to be addressed.
What are the complementary advantages of the furniture industry between China and Pakistan?
China is already have some kind of very big scale furniture producing factories. That means if your production scale is big, you can again reduce the cost. So I think that is China's furniture's advantage.
What potential do we two countries have in this industry?
Maybe China and Pakistan can try to establish a kind of center for excellence. You see, as I mentioned, in Pakistan, the handmade furniture skill is run as a family tradition. If we can establish a kind of center for excellence where wood furniture makers or the artisans or students can polish their family skills with the latest techniques, so that they can meet the updated international standards. $100,000 people there. The employment rate is not too high, and a lot of people still rely on traditional fishing.
Lochi embroidery is very famous all around Pakistan.
Different levels of government passed a lot of laws and regulations that make sure the women have the equal right to get education.
They are trying to train those women who cannot work in the offices or in cities. They can learn something, and they can start their own small kind of scale of businesses at home.
You are watching the Belt and Road Face-to-Face. Let's enter the third part, culture. The Chinese Consul General at Karachi, Li Bijian, inaugurated an embroidery learning center set up by the Qaiser Women Development Organization with Chinese assistance. Mr. Li said Pakistan and China enjoyed cordial relations, and over time these ties had been strengthened. The Chinese government was extending all assistance so that local people could learn different skills. The objective of establishing the embroidery center at Qaiser is to make skilled women economically stable. What role will the embroidery center play?
You see that Qaiser free zone have a great development potential. And the building of the Qaiser free zone is accelerating. A lot of industries will be developed in the near future, like the industrial manufacturing, like the industrial fishery product processing. I think the embroidery, just to make another industry, is still conducive or contribute to the diversification of the local industries in Qaiser area. Talk about the Qaiser village or towns, maybe around 100,000 people there. The employment rate is not too high, and a lot of people still rely on traditional fishing. You cannot expect a woman to go to the Indian Sea to get fish because it's just too harsh for them. So, but when they learned how to do the embroidery through this center, I think they can be employed either in her home or in some kind of embroidery small-scale factory. So that is good, provide more job to the local people.
Are there any similar vocational training organizations specifically for women in Pakistan?
I know a project just concentrated on the Swat district. Swat is a district not too far from the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And I think the project led around more than 1,000, nearly 2,000 women in the Swat district get benefit from it. And after this kind of training programs, they can polish their own skills and they can earn new skills so that they become part of the breadwinner for the family.
Now let's connect it with Dr. Sajid.
You know, like blochi embroidery is very famous all around Pakistan. And any visitors, any tourists come to Balochistan, they love to buy the embroidery clothings. That's very traditional, very fancy, both handmade and machine-made. It also enhances the economic opportunity and empowerment of women and girls to more stable societies, growing market economies, of course, and address health and education challenges so that women can choose peace and prosperity in their lives. By this kind of initiatives, they will be trained and start their own self-employment, which is really great for those women, and where there is a huge demand of the handmade as well as machine-made embroidery clothings. The people, especially the women of Gwadar, will be economically stronger and help the country's economic development. There are more than 5,000 vocational training institutions for women in Pakistan, mainly in the rural areas, because where the women, they are not very much educated. The purpose is the promotion of the women's rights means the promotion of freedom, justice and peaceful of social progress and better standards of living, of equality, tolerance and dignity. I can quote you one of the examples here. Savera is one of the NGOs in Pakistan is working for the women's empowerment in district Swat throughout the vocational centers and has a project providing vocational training to 1,800 women to polish their existing skills and gain their new skills. I think that's really a great initiative, and there are lots of other NGOs and the local bodies that they're working in different rural areas that they are trying to train those women who cannot work in the offices or in cities. They can learn something and they can start their own small kind of scale of businesses at home.
Dr. Sajid, what's the employment rate of women in Pakistan?
Only about 25% of Pakistani women who have a university degree outside the home. Women low labor force participation results a significant potential of loss of productivity and the economic growth. Most women would prefer to stay at home after getting married. This is one of the main reasons also. And in urban cities where there is a big number of working women, while in the rural cities, rural areas, the women would like to work in the fields along with the men. The trend in cities now is being changed recently in few decades, like 20 years, 30 years. Women workforce are now almost in every field. So in Pakistan, if you go in the main cities, majority of the women, they are working, and I think it's a very good gesture. But I would suggest there should be a more women working participation, so that can not only help themselves to improve their lifestyle, even they can help the country's development and their economies.
What measures has China taken to promote women's employment? Can it be adopted by Pakistan?
I think in the past decade, China's government, different levels of government, passed a lot of laws and regulations that make sure the women have the equal right to get education as men. I think the education can be divided into two categories. The first is the high school and the higher education, and that is important. The government try very hard to make sure the teenage girls can enter the high school like the teenage boys. And after they finish their education in high school, if they pass the university entrance exam, the government work very hard to guarantee this kind of girls can really get to the university to receive higher education. The second category of education is vocational education or continuing education. Because for one reason, two reasons, there are still some kind of girls who do not go to the higher education, university. For this kind of part of the women, I think the vocational education is very important. The government try very hard to establish a kind of a systematic education training system, so that at least people can get, especially the women, can get skills for learn their livings.
Thank you for watching the Belt and Road Face to Face, and thank you for coming to our show today. See you next time.